Welcome to Scalable and Saleable, where we find out what great entrepreneurs have done to scale their business into the millions. Stay right here for the next few minutes to leverage validated methodologies for growth and create a way more scalable and a way more sellable business for yourself. Let's get started. Nicholas, would you mind telling our audience a little bit more about who you are and what your business is?
Not at all. Thank you. My name's Nick or Nicholas Ferber. No one calls me Nicholas, but there it is. And I have for 23 years been in the executive search space. I have built 2 companies in that space and hope to be done with this one, as in not leaving, but we'll see. I have argued, and no one's ever disagreed, the single worst product a person could ever sell is people, and that's what I sell. Because if 2 parties agree that your house is worth $1 million or your car is worth 100,000, it's done. That's not my business. I've had people at the finish line hundreds of times for more money than they expected, closer to home, better benefits. And I get that Sunday night call to say, you know what, Nick, I talked to my wife, and I don't even wait for them to finish the sentence. There are no good endings to that sentence. So I love what I do, and I love making an impact. And I love that, I would claim people's health is number 1 and their money's number 2. And I'm very involved with their money and trying to get them more money, more upside, better opportunity, etc. That's my job. And it's very enjoyable. And watching people I then place grow and evolve and then call me to say, I'm now the CFO. I need to hire some people under me, whatever it might be, very fulfilling. So yeah, that's my job at its best and at its worst in a nutshell. Is that good,
perfect.
Jeff?
That's perfect, man. Thank you. It's an important thing. I know in our CEO roundtable groups, finding good people is the number 1 challenge that they're brainstorming about right now. For sure, that is the topic that they're the most challenged by and most concerned with. So yeah, I get it completely. You've built multiple businesses. As you look back over the years, what's something that jumps out at you that you would attribute your growth to?
I'd say partnering with the right people is number 1, and then oddly enough, because it goes back to what I do every day, finding the talent. Because you can't build on mediocrity. You can get by on mediocrity, but you can't build on it. And so trying to find people, and there's a luck element, no question. And if anyone who follows you watches the NFL draft, there's a very high rate of failure. And those are people looking to spend tens of millions with great research and a huge team, and they're still wrong more than half the time. So it is.
I'm a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, so all we do is draft top picks that are duds. Yes. That's all we do.
Right. So is your QB good or not good? I haven't decided, but he's certainly very talented.
But they're always talented before they get to Jacksonville, at least.
That might be a better statement. But trying to find talent that is going to grow and is going to last is difficult, and there are mistakes along the way. But you can build a lot on a few very good people, and sadly, by contrast, it only takes a few bad apples to sort of spoil everything. So that is the challenge. And then when I talk to hugely successful entrepreneurs that are calling me for the 10th or 20th time to make a hire, it's the same challenge. Of course, they've got to grow the top line and grow the bottom line and open the new office, but finding talented people it's always going to be number 1, because if by chance you've built something and there are 100 employees or 5 offices or whatever it might be, you can't be on the assembly line everywhere. You can't be in the 5 offices in 3 states. You have to have people you can trust, and there'll always be a luck element, but with a good sense of what you're looking for and intelligent sort of interaction, hopefully you succeed more than you fail.
Yeah, well said. I'm sure you've learned a lot along the way from your own businesses and from speaking to so many other entrepreneurs that you work with, based off of all your past experiences and past conversations with great business leaders. if you were coming into a brand new, different business, what would be some of the first things that you think you'd look into to start growing that business?
So just so we're clear, Jeff, in the premise, I already like new business XYZ and believe in it. I'm committed. I'm starting
Yeah.
the shoe company, whatever it might be.
Yeah, you
What
just
is
got
some
the
of
keys to it.
yeah,
Yeah, you just got the
okay.
keys to a
Mhm.
different new business, but based off of everything you've done in other businesses, what were some of the first things that you'd start doing?
Well, I wouldn't have said yes if I didn't think there was some level of differentiation. If I'm,
Okay.
and in what I do, that's exactly, frankly, the only thing I think I do better than the next guy, because anyone doing what I do can represent Jeff, the star CEO, anyone. So how am I any better than the other 100, search firms in the area? It's how deeply I get to know Jeff and how well I'm able to represent him to the client. So in this case, whatever the new business is, if you think you're just another, you're no better than the other 87 sandwich shops within a 10-mile radius, you shouldn't be in that business. So whether it's fresher ingredients or better service or better pricing or amazing sort of playroom in the sandwich shop for the kids, I don't know, I'm making these things up. If you can't differentiate, you'll get by, but you can't grow by being just as mediocre as the next guy. That's what I would say. And that's my fight every day, to either get the better candidate or represent, or frankly, the truth, what I do better than everyone else is I have clients no one else can get to. And that's from deep relationships and huge amounts of networking.
Right.
So that if Jeff really wants to go to important private equity from such and such, it's me or he's not getting there. So, but if you can't differentiate, you're not going to be special. You're not going to grow exponentially, and you might get by, you might do well, but you're not going to be special.
Got it. So you've observed, you've had a unique perspective of observing lots of different businesses. What do you feel most small business owners do wrong?
That one, I love that we're unprepared, or we're not unprepared. You're very well prepared. I wasn't prepared for these questions. So what do I think most small business? Well, I'll tell
You
you.
don't have to. Just
No,
whatever
no, no.
comes
It's
to
a
your
great
mind is
question.
fine.
I'll tell you. I will tell you one right now that I encounter with frequency.
Yeah.
The smaller companies often are uncomfortable with my fees, and that seems very much about me, but I'm going to apply it to all business. Smaller businesses aren't often nearly as willing to spend to grow as slightly larger businesses.
Mhm.
And then when you go bargain basement on, if you're like a CFO and you underpay, or you're just at market and there's no offer of equity or a great bonus, yeah, you know what? You're calling Nick 8 months later to say, it didn't work out with Stevie. Can you help me now? You're 8 months worse off. Maybe you absconded with, the half the money from the business, or made some terrible deals that are going to hurt you for years. So not sometimes, with decent frequency, the smaller businesses that I deal with, not just in how they want to talk to the executive search guy, but they're trying to cut corners that often in the long run cost them much more money. And so that's not the same as everyone should have a penthouse on Fifth Avenue in New York, but you got to invest in the business, would be the short version of what I just said.
Right. It's like a lot of times you get what you pay for is the reason why that expression has lasted all these years. What would you say has been the most influential book that you've read or listened to?
I read, I don't really listen. I read a lot of business books.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe my favorite in the last few years is Who is Michael Ovitz? Michael Ovitz is absolutely accepted as the largest Hollywood agent ever. He's now a billionaire, so he's done quite well, you could say. He built Creative Artists, CAA, Creative Artists Agency. He was the co-founder with 3 or 4 other guys. His book's amazing because he comes from poverty. He went and worked as an agent through massive hard work and was doing okay, and drove a Jag and felt pretty good about himself. And then he and 3 others left to start CAA. And there were huge struggles, and he built something huge. And he built something with a few thousand employees. He built something with about $500 million a year of revenue. He created enormous personal wealth, became a highly respected art collector, something I know nothing about, but still we'll count it. And but I like any book where I get to read about sort of the finished product. I've read a few Warren Buffett books, Elon Musk, anyone who came from small and got big. I'm very interested in each and every step. And there's always a luck element somewhere along the way, but these are people who live the business and have no sense of the clock. They're 7 days a week working and building and growing the business. And there's never a party where they're not trying to meet someone. There's never a birth. There's never anything. I mean, his son got sick at one point and he had to rush into a hospital and he forgot his checkbook and they gave him the medication anyway. Well, he donated $500,000 to the hospital the next day and now sits on their board. But everything for him somehow was about business. And, even when it was loved ones, it became, somehow marketing and business. But that's my most recent enjoyable read.
Oh, thank you. I've not heard about it. Sometimes you hear some of the same names. I've not heard that one, so thank you for that. If you could go back in time to when you first started out and say one bit of advice to younger you, what would you say?
I got one, and that one, no, I joined a very bad company. I'm not going to name a name right now, but if you don't like or trust the people you work for, you have to get out. Doesn't matter how well you're being paid, your future's not bright. It just isn't.
Wow.
And there are enough bad people out there. We all know that, but there are also enough good people out there. You don't need to be with bad people. And I was scared of taking a step back in leaving. It held me up a long time. But it's worth the pain to be around good people, not bad people, frankly.
Yeah, that's so true. What questions should I be asking you that I haven't?
Well, I go on for you. I'll flip it around on you. Maybe you
Awesome.
can help me.
Okay.
This will by far be my best financial year ever. I have no idea what I'm going to do for next year. So my question, because I know you're much more successful than me, my question to you is, after a good year, how do you repeat it or do better? Because I'm not sure what I'm going to do for 23.
I love that question. I think so much so much of it has to do with your own beliefs. You can have these limiting beliefs or the scarcity that I think most entrepreneurs I know, when it's really good, it feels like, oh God, it couldn't be this good for too long. Or it always feels like there's got to be another shoe that, because entrepreneurs, we're so used to fighting and punching our way out of, corners, that when things are going great and you do have a best year ever, it feels like, oh, it can only be this good for so long. But I think it's important to remind yourself, if you look at the total market share of what you do and you do the actual math, the percentage of market share that you have right now is so much more tiny than you might think. It's like, for most business, it's like probably like 1% of the market share. And I have friends who have built businesses so big that we started at about the same time. And then, I'd add another employee or two, and they're adding dozens of employees. I'm getting to like where I've got an office with some people and they've got hundreds of employees. And any time, when you think it's a big number, I would challenge you to add a zero and think, what would we need to do if our next goal for the next 3 years out was 10 times the size of where we're at now? What would we need to fundamentally change about our business? Who are we working with? Who are our partners? What's the culture like? What's, and to not try to maintain where you're at. It's like you see it in football. You mentioned football. A lot of times a team has a lead and then they start playing to not lose the lead instead of just playing to just destroy them and dominate and obliterate them. They just start kind of like trying to run down the clock and not lose the lead. So I would say stay on offense and set bigger goals, not pie in the sky, objectives. And I think, this is a good topic for anybody is one, believe that whatever the next thing is possible, to where 3 years from now, you look back and you think, oh, that's funny. Remember when we couldn't believe how good X was? And I have a friend that he kept doubling his business, right? He went from 25 million a year to 50 million a year. And at 50 million a year, I said, all right, well, he's not going to double to 100 million until he did. And then when he was at 100 million a year, I said, all right, well, he's not going to double to 200 million a year. And then he did. And then I said, well, it's not like he can just double 200 million to 400 million. And then he did.
Okay.
This year, he'll do
Yeah.
over 900 million in 1 year in revenue.
Yeah.
And I promise you, he would consider $1 billion in sales a year or two from now a disappointment. Which, you start to think in those terms, and you're like, what am I talking about? Whatever our number is, like, it's too good to be true, which is great. I mean, it's like a balance. It's like my dad right now, as we're recording this, he's getting medical treatment, and then everything's a balance. You do this, but then that could lower this, and then you got to fix this, but that could affect this, and it's just like, so it's I think it's kind of balancing being grateful for what you have and what you've done, but at the same time, even though there's sort of opposites, looking for that next thing and trying to enjoy the journey. It's probably a lot more than you were expecting me to say.
No, I asked in good faith and you answered, and I appreciate, and you hit a lot of key points, because I do, as an entrepreneur, live in fear and say, every time the phone rings, it could be some serious money, or it could be we've got a problem. And I worry much more about the downside than get excited for the upside, because we got to keep going. And
it's like, you look at, like, I remember one time I was speaking into a ballroom of CEOs. There are probably 160 CEOs in the room, and I felt like everybody in the room was kind of feeling what I was saying. I see lots of pens, like, scribbling down ideas and notes from the different things we're doing and talking about. There was one guy in there who was making this face, kind of like, I don't know, he just didn't look happy, didn't look into it. And I was like doing everything I could to try to, like, turn this one guy out of 160 around. And I'm thinking, oh no, this isn't good. This isn't, helpful. This isn't, it's just this one guy. And then afterwards I was thinking, for all I know, that guy could have had a really bad stomach ache. He could have just got a text that his daughter was in jail again. I don't know. Or he could just be an asshole. But there were 159 people that were, getting a lot of value out of it, and getting great ideas and getting motivated and all this stuff. And I would say, you don't want to get complacent and then just sit back and try to coast off of like, what's been done, but it's that balance, just trying to find it. But I think if you're really clear on what your top objectives are for the next 12 months, and what your goals are, and what that needs to be every month, every week, every day, and monitoring and holding people accountable, and not going on to defense. But I mean, that's why, it's easier said than done. That's why most of us sell a company, because we figure, things are going good. Let's, take chips off the table now while you can. And sometimes it's the right call, like the CEO of Groupon turned down, I think, billions. He ended up, leaving with almost nothing. Those MySpace guys were probably pretty smart to sell it when they did.
Sure.
But any parting words of advice?
Yes. While you gave me, I'll give you my business is about failure even more than success. And there's absolutely been success, but I'm trying to find the absolute star, Jeff Davis, a job. I'm working with 3 other people at his level for the new CEO job at important company XYZ. If I succeed, I will have to call 3 out of 4 people and say, you didn't get it. So failure is more than half the time what I'm dealing with. And that's if I succeed. I may have to call all 4 to say you didn't get it, and then it's complete failure. But in my business, when there is failure, which is frequent, and I give you a good case scenario, Joe, Every day I'm picking myself up off the mat because we didn't close that deal, or we didn't get that search, or we're up against two other firms and we might get it, but we were counting on it. And now we have one of three finalists, and frankly, all things being equal, a 1 in 3 shot, and we don't yet know the outcome, etc.
Yeah.
If you want to be a business person, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to make it in America, maybe in the world, but I said America, you've got to deal with failure, and you've got to, and I see this in golf more than anywhere else, not my sport. I'll hit a ball in the water and just continue and maybe even win the tournament type of thing. And you can't get stuck in the past in good business. You will lose deals, and you won't get that office you were hoping to get, or that great employee that you think could make a difference. In the end, picks the other firm, whatever it might be. You just have to keep going, put your head down and continue, because there'll be success, but there will be failure. And if you get mired in the failure, there's no chance of good things happening. You got to just keep moving forward.
That is 100% the truth. And I've talked to enough Inc. 500 CEOs and super highly successful entrepreneurs, and I've yet to meet one of them that didn't have story after story of explosions and disasters and setbacks and it, feeling like it's over, and dark moments and stress, and all of it, all from the 100 million plus CEOs to the ones that are at 5-10 million but growing fast, like all of them. It's like anybody that tells you they're not is just a lie. They lie about other things too, but
Sure.
it's just about picking yourself back up, surrounding yourself with other people that have the similar belief or willing to fight like hell for their dreams too, and just getting all the gook out and going for it. But man, thank you so much. That was freaking awesome.
I appreciate your time, Jeff, and if I added any value, it's a first for me. So.
All right.